Mr. Gilman. Ooh, makes me sound a lot more important than I actually am. I hope my email comes through. Huge fan of the channel. I learn far more from your videos than any other place. Wow, thank you. I appreciate that. Your simple, clear, and unique way of explaining things truly resonates and hits home with me every time. Thank you. My struggle has always been with angle of attack, AOA. I never quite understood it. I always thought that an airplane during a climb is at a higher angle of attack than at cruise, until you mentioned on one of your videos that was not true. If this email does reach you, which it did, it would mean the world to me if you'd spend some time on a future video discussing angle of attack. Thanks for all you do, Chris, and I'll leave Chris's last name out of this for privacy reasons. But Chris, you know who you are. And yes, the email did reach me. You could call me Yoel. You don't have to call me Mr. Gilman. The email did reach me. And here we are. We're on a video, and we'll talk about angle of attack. And I'd be more than happy to explain or to give you my take of angle of attack. And hopefully, like the other videos, this one will resonate too. So for those of you who watched me for more than a video or two, you probably know at this point that I'm not the guy who will tell you that angle of attack is the angle between the chord line of the wing and the relative wind. That to me is not what angle of attack is. That might be the answer on the FAA's written test, but that to me is not what angle of attack is. What angle of attack is, or what I count as knowing what angle of attack is, what counts as knowing angle of attack is when you feel it in your bones, when you know exactly what it is and what it isn't. And so, Chris, I think you're after what you want to feel is you want to feel it in your bones. You want to fully understand angle of attack. And I'm pretty confident that by the end of this video, I don't know how long this video will take because these clips, when I answer people's emails, I just talk. I just share my thoughts. I just go on and I share with you my opinion. I share with you my take on it, and I explain how I see things. And I have no clue how long this will take, but however long this video takes, I'm pretty confident by the end of it, you'll feel angle of attack in your bones. You'll fully know what angle of attack is and isn't. And the reason I'm confident is not because I have abilities that other people don't. The reason I'm confident is because what I'm going to teach you in this video is just how simple angle of attack actually is. And once you understand how simple angle of attack is, you'll understand why I'm confident right now that in about, again, I don't know how long, you'll feel very confident yourself about angle of attack. So here's what angle of attack is. Let me say it in layman's terms. Let me share with you what angle of attack is in simple. If you know me for a while, I love simple terms. The simpler the term, the better. It's right up my alley. I despise big, high terms that no one understands, especially not student pilots coming into this. So simple terms. If a 1-year-old can understand it, if they could, amazing, excellent. If a 5-year-old can understand it, excellent. It's all good. Simple terms. Here we go. Angle of attack, Chris, is the angle. I want you to write this down. Angle of attack is the angle between the direction the airplane is moving in and the direction the airplane is pointing in. And I'll say it again. I'll say it 3 more times because I want to make sure you write it down properly and accurately. Angle of attack is the angle between the direction the airplane is moving in and the direction the airplane is pointing in. I said 3 times. I have to say it 1 more time just so you don't call me a liar. Angle of attack is the angle between the direction the airplane is moving in and the direction the airplane is pointing in. So what do I mean? If you drive your car down the road, Let's take your car, for example, which is something we're all familiar with. Take your car. You're driving your car. In your car, with your car, the way your car works right now, does your car have the ability to point and move in two different directions? Or does your car always point in the direction that it's moving in? The answer is your car points in the direction it's moving in, meaning the direction between the angle between the direction your car is moving in and the direction your car is pointing in is always the same. Your car doesn't have the ability to point up towards the sky and yet drive straight down the freeway this way. Now, a motorcycle, on the other hand, does, right? And we've all seen that. Maybe there's special cars that could do wheelies. I'm sure there are some out there. But I'm talking about the typical cars that you and I drive. A motorcycle, on the other hand, if you've seen a motorcycle do a wheelie, right, just on the back wheel, think about what the motorcycle is doing. I want to break this down for you. The motorcycle is this way. Okay, imagine there's pavement here. Here's the freeway or the road or the parking lot, wherever people do wheelies. Here's the motorcycle. And the motorcycle is doing a wheelie on the back wheel. As they're doing a wheelie, they're moving in this direction. Okay? If I asked you right now, what direction is the headlight of the motorcycle pointing in? What would you say? You would say that the direction I'm using headlight, but really the direction the motorcycle is pointing in is towards there. It's up like that, towards the sky, if you will. And then if I asked you, I said, cool, what direction is the motorcycle moving in? Not pointing, but moving in. Your answer would be, well, not towards the sky. Your answer would be that way. Okay, so what do we see here when a motorcycle wheelies, unlike the car, your car and my car? Well, when a motorcycle wheelies, there's an angle all of a sudden. There's an angle between the direction the motorcycle is moving in and the direction the motorcycle is pointing in. Moving, pointing. Moving, pointing. There's an angle. If someone does a crazy wheelie, guess what? Now they're doing like that. They're doing a wheelie. This angle is massive. It's big. If someone does less of a crazy wheelie, still pointing and moving in two different directions, but the angle is less. Okay? Okay. Angle of attack, one more time, just to make sure this cements in your brain so you fully understand it. Angle of attack is the angle between the direction the plane is moving in and the direction the plane is pointing in. Okay? And a motorcycle that does a wheelie has exactly that. It's pointing in one direction, it's moving in another. Planes, as they're designed, if you've flown an airplane for more than a few hours, if you've done slow flight with your CFI, with your instructor, you know, you've probably picked this up just by flying, you realized that the faster we fly at cruise, the more like the plane is just level, the more you could see out the window. But all of a sudden, when you start doing slow flight, all of a sudden the attitude is this way. It's almost like you're looking at the sky. You're looking out your window. It's like you're leaning back, but you're maintaining your 4,500 feet. You're moving forward, but you're leaning back. The plane is pointing up. That right there is what we would call a high angle of attack. The plane is pointing up, but moving forward. Angle of attack. Okay, I want to cement this in your head, and I want to say this as many times as I need because it's really this simple. We'll get to. I have these right here. I think I'll use in a moment to drive this point home. But Chris, angle of attack is the angle between the direction an airplane is moving in and the direction an airplane is pointing in. And the reason I'm hammering this into your brain is because to answer your specific question that you said, oh, you always thought that a plane in a climb is always at a high angle of attack and a plane at cruise is at a low angle of attack. because we'll get to that in a moment, and when we do, I want to make sure a bunch of light bulbs go off in your head. I have to start kind of building this foundation first. And this foundation is, what is angle of attack? So I want to make sure you understand it. Angle of attack is the angle between the direction a plane is pointing, and the direction it's moving in. Okay? That's what angle of attack is. If that's true, that means that if a plane is both moving and pointing in the same direction, think at cruise, clean airplane, no flaps, doing 180 miles an hour. If the plane is pointing and moving in the same direction, what's the angle of attack? 0, close to 0, low, call it whatever you want. Okay? It's moving and pointing in the same direction, no angle of attack. How about when it's moving and pointing in two different directions? Now we get an angle of attack. The greater that angle, the higher the angle of attack. The smaller that angle, the lower the angle of attack. Excellent. Now let's think about a plane in a climb. Okay? Here's two markers, and the reason I'm using them is because we have two different colors. So it doesn't matter which we assign to which, but I'll just assign each color a different something that it represents. So let's say this green marker represents the direction the plane is moving in. And let's say the red marker represents the direction the plane is pointing in. Okay? So again, a motorcycle driving, let's say this is a motorcycle for a moment. Pointing, moving. A motorcycle driving down the road, the pointing and moving looks like this. Like this. No angle. A motorcycle doing a wheelie, again, moving, pointing, moving. A motorcycle doing a wheelie looks like this. Okay? They're moving in this direction. They're still moving down the road, but they're pointing their wheel, their front tires up in the air. So we have an angle, okay? Moving, pointing, moving, pointing. This is a wheelie. This is no wheelie. No angle. Okay, now think of an airplane. Moving, pointing. An airplane at cruise, flying really, really fast. It's pointing and moving in the same direction. No angle of attack. No angle. You slow the plane down. You slow the plane down. You slow the plane down. You're maintaining altitude. You're maintaining altitude. You're maintaining altitude. Guess what? You're picking that angle of attack. All of a sudden, in order to stay at 4,500 feet while going so slow, we're hanging on by a thread. Here's what happens. Pointing, moving. In order to move and maintain 4,500 with such little energy, we have to increase that angle of attack. Check it out. This is what happens. This is angle of attack. Chris, angle of attack is the angle between what two things? The direction the plane is moving in and the direction the plane is pointing in. The direction the plane is moving in, the direction the plane is pointing in. Now that you fully understand what angle of attack is, let me take a quick sip, and now I'll answer your question. Why an airplane in a climb or an airplane at cruise, that information in and of itself tells us nothing about its angle of attack. I'll show you. So you said in your video, in your email, that you thought that a plane climbing is at a high angle of attack and a plane at cruise is at a low angle of attack. And guess what? The reason this is a great email and the reason I chose to talk about this email is because you're far from the only person, the only student pilot who thinks this way. Most pilots, forget student pilots, most private pilots, maybe even commercial pilots, maybe even some CFIs, I don't know. I hope not. You ask them, you say, hey, is a plane climbing at a higher angle of attack or a lower angle of attack than a plane at cruise? And instead of asking you, well, I don't know, what are the speeds? What's the energy on the airplane? Like, instead of digging and finding some information that might help them answer that question, they just say, yeah, a plane that's climbing is at a higher angle of attack. So you're far from the only one who thinks this. But I want to show you something right now. Again, what is angle of attack? Angle of attack is the angle between the direction the plane is moving in and the direction the plane is pointing in. Okay. Let's imagine we have a plane that just took off and is a very powerful airplane. Think fighter jet, okay? Just a very overly powered airplane. It took off, and now it's so powerful, completely powerful, that it could theoretically fly vertically, just like a rocket, like that. But it's not doing that. It just wants to take off and climb out normally, just to be comfortable. It's so powerful that there's so much speed or energy on the airplane that you don't need any angle of attack. And by the way, there's a lot going on in this video. There's a lot of assumptions that I'm realizing you might need to have. I'm assuming at this point, asking me this question, you kind of understand that the slower a plane flies, the more angle of attack it needs, right? The faster we go, like I said before, at cruise, the less angle of attack we need, okay? And if you don't know this, then what I'll say is angle of attack and speed. Angle of attack and indicated airspeed are always inverse each other, meaning the slower the indicated airspeed, the more angle of attack I need to hang out at altitude. The higher my indicated airspeed or energy, the less angle of attack I could get away with. It's almost like they're inverse each other. So let's assume this fighter jet just took off. It has so much power, unbelievable speed. It's climbing out at the speed of sound. Guess what? It doesn't need any angle of attack. Its climb literally looks like this. And what do we see here? It is moving and pointing in the same direction. I'll say that differently. It is pointing precisely in the direction in which it's moving. I'll say it again. It is pointing precisely in the direction in which it's moving. And the result is what? No angle of attack. It's pointing and moving in the same direction. Boom. Let me take a more extreme example, which I think will drive this point home, and maybe a light bulb will go off. Imagine a rocket taking off. Boom, like that. Is the rocket pointing and moving in the same direction? Yeah. What's its angle of attack? 0. And it is going vertical. Way crazier than what you were talking about, a plane climbing. So do you see how a rocket going vertical or a fighter jet going vertical could be at a 0 angle of attack? Because as long as the thing that's moving is pointing in the direction in which it's moving, there's no angle of attack. The angle of attack is the angle between the moving and the pointing. I could move and point in this direction like I do at cruise. A fighter jet and a rocket could move and point in this direction. A powerful plane could climb out and move and point in this direction. In all these situations that I just gave you, 0 angle of attack, 0 angle of attack, 0 angle of attack. Or I could be a less powerful plane, and when I climb, I look like this. I'm moving this way, but I'm pointing a little higher than my flight path, okay? So now let's incorporate a little terms that maybe you are familiar with. Flight path, chord line. Flight path, chord line. Moving, pointing. Moving, pointing. What is always parallel and opposite my flight path? The relative wind. Relative wind is hitting me opposite the direction of my movement, not the direction of my pointing. So we got relative wind, we got the chord line, and we got our angle of attack, right? That's kind of how you were thinking of angle of attack to this point. I want you to throw all these big terms out the window. They're not helping you unless you're passing your FAA test, but let's assume you're a rated pilot. Moving, pointing. Moving, pointing. It's very simple. Anytime a motorcycle is moving and pointing in the same direction, no angle of attack. Anytime a motorcycle is moving and pointing in a different direction, we got an angle of attack. Anytime a plane is moving and pointing in the same direction, doesn't matter if they're climbing, doesn't matter if the fighter jet is doing this, doesn't matter if we're descending, doesn't matter if the fighter jet is doing that, doesn't matter if we're cruising. Anytime the moving and the pointing are the same, there's no angle of attack. Angle of attack is the angle between our direction of movement and the direction we're pointing in. I hope this answers your question. why a plane that is climbing could theoretically be at it could be at a negative angle of attack, which we won't get into. But a plane could have so much energy that to not climb, to maintain its altitude, it needs to now point slightly down. So it's pointing down but moving straight. That's a negative angle of attack. But it's all the same concept. It's the angle between the pointing and the moving. It should be a t-shirt. You should put it on a mug. Chris, you should go on Amazon and get a mug where you can custom make things, and you should write on it, angle of attack is the angle between the direction we're moving in and the direction we're pointing in. That's it. That is what angle of attack is. I hope that you now feel it in your bones and that you feel comfortable with your understanding of angle of attack. It's not complicated. It's not complicated. And I hope I was able to answer your question as to why a plane in a climb is not necessarily at a higher angle of attack than any other plane at any other time, because there's other factors that go into it. How much excess thrust does that plane have? Maybe they need zero angle of attack. Heck, fighter jets could do this. Move and point in the same direction while flying straight up. Zero angle of attack. I hope this was helpful, Chris. I hope this resonates, and I hope you feel good about your angle of attack. And I'll just leave with this. I did touch on this a moment ago. If you're a student pilot and you're passing a test, you got to dance to the tune of all these big terms. But if you're a rated pilot and you're looking to learn and you're finding yourself just not getting these things, try and break these big terms down. Chord line, relative wind. Oh, it sounds way too fancy for me. Break it down. What does it mean? What does relative wind mean? Oh, it's that air that hits my plane exactly opposite my direction of movement. Here's relative wind for you. If you drive down the road in your car on the freeway and you put your hand out the window like this, where's the relative wind hitting you? Here or on the backside of your hand? The answer is it's hitting you here. Now, what if you kept your hand exactly the way it is and you entered your car into reverse and drove backwards 60 miles an hour? You did not move your hand. Where's the relative wind hitting you? Now it's hitting you over here. What changed? You did not move your hand. What changed is the direction of your movement. You're now moving in the opposite direction. Parallel and opposite. Relative wind is always parallel and opposite your direction of movement. So anytime you think of relative wind, just think of this hand example. If I drive straight, it hits me here. If I go into reverse, it hits me on the backside. Okay? That's what relative wind is. So challenge yourself to break these concepts down. They're not complicated. Break them down and realize that so many of these topics really could be understood and you could feel them in your bones, like I said. Hopefully. I want you to write me again, send me an email, and let me know if you actually feel angle of attack in your bones. Anyway, hope this was helpful, Chris. Thanks for the email, and I hope this helped other people out there who might be struggling to wrap their heads around what angle of attack is. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye. Hey guys, it's Yoel. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it answered some of your questions, confusion, whatever it might be, that I was able to help you in your own flight training journey. If you did enjoy the video and you did find it helpful, I would appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel and like the video. What that does with the YouTube algorithm is it kind of lets the AI way of letting YouTube know that there's some interest here and there's some helpful information for others, and that way YouTube will share this with other students or people who are going through flight training just like you. So if you do those things, it always helps, and I do appreciate it. Secondly, if you also have a topic, a question, a topic, a concern, confusion, whatever it might be that you want me to talk about on these videos here, go ahead and email me. There's an email in the description of this video below. So if you click on the description of the video, you'll see an email. Email that email with your question or topic, whatever it is you want me to talk about. And in the subject line of the email, write Ask Yoel. because this series is what I call Ask Yoel. So that way, when the emails come in, we're able to separate them and know that your email is a topic you want me to discuss on these videos. Anyhow, hope it was helpful, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.